Pastor Mullery, sac passé. All right. We got some Haitians in the house today?
Yeah.
I have an adopted Haitian son, so I've just exhausted my entire reach of Creole. So there won't be any more of that. Pastor, you've dealt with men that have struggled with this idea, and society has largely told them that they can interact with pornography, that they can treat women as though they're just one of the guys, they can be routinely disrespectful to the other gender. As you have seen this in counseling, what are you seeing it do to your neighborhood, to your society, to your city?
Well, whenever you see men degrading women or actually growing up, I grew up mostly in a Christian environment. Aside from going to school, you go into the secular. But it's not usually what men say to women or say about women that I found that kind of like affected me, was what men were saying to other men that caused me and the people I know to kind of like view women in a negative way. Like, don't cry, or man up, you're acting like a little girl. So when they're telling other men that, though they're not talking to a woman, but they're referring to a woman, and that kind of brings this mentality to a man that she's less value. And that has a negative effect on the entire community.
Kevin Ryan, you have dealt with a lot of teenagers that have faced the fallout of a society like this, but when you basically say that no one has value, everyone's interchangeable, and it doesn't matter who you are in the culture, we begin to treat people like objects. What's going on with the homeless teens in America today?
You know, when I first showed up at Covenant House back in 1992, I still had hair. It was a little thinner.
I know your song, brother. I know your song.
You have been to this movie.
I wrote the screenplay.
You know, nothing really prepared me for what that experience was going to be like. I grew up with 5 brothers in suburban New Jersey. My folks had filled our heads with all the good lies that become the scaffolding of our lives, that you can, you must, you should. And I left graduate school wanting to come and do legal aid work here at Covenant House, wanting to make a difference in the world. And the first moment I walked into that building, right now by the Lincoln Tunnel at 41st and 10th, there were 350 homeless teenagers. Many of them back then were living with an HIV diagnosis or had full-blown AIDS. It was the city's largest program for HIV-infected kids. And it was the beginning of a solar eclipse. I started to lose my way in the darkness of this world. October of 1992, we went into the Amtrak tunnels, and I met a pregnant 14-year-old. I can't tell you what the cognitive dissonance around that was like, but my entire childhood was spent with these iconic moments on New Jersey Transit, taking the train into the city to go to a Yankees game or, God forbid, a Mets game, to see the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree get lit up, a Broadway show. It just never occurred to me there were kids my age or younger living on the other side of those trains, and while my family, my brothers and I, my folks and we were having the time of our lives, there were young people who were fending for themselves. She had been prostituted down in the salt mines. She'd become pregnant. She was no longer sellable, and she was discarded, which is, of course, what happens when human beings begin to be treated like commodities. They can be bought and they can be sold. It's a longer story about how I found the light again at Covenant House, but I will say that nothing can prepare you to live in and be in space where there are hundreds and hundreds of teenagers whose only experience of sexual intimacy is commodification, who don't genuinely know love, who find maternal and paternal affection in strobe flashes, and who find their way in the world amidst a fog that is, for many of them, impenetrable.